One cold October night in Bengaluru, a routine family visit turned into a living nightmare when the police opened a refrigerator door in Mahalakshmi layout. Inside, they found something no one could have prepared for: the lifeless body of a woman, chillingly preserved among household items. Today, I'm going to take you through the horrifying Mahalakshmi Fridge Case, a crime that shocked the entire city and left us all questioning how something this gruesome could happen in the first place. Background of the victim and accused. Varalakshmi, the victim in this heartbreaking case, was a 27-year-old woman with hopes and dreams like any of us. She worked as a home tutor, helping students in her neighborhood of Mahalakshmi layout, Bengaluru. Her friends and family described her as kind-hearted and warm, someone who genuinely cared about the people around her. However, despite her efforts to maintain a happy and peaceful life, Varalakshmi was facing personal struggles behind the scenes, particularly in her relationship with Kumar. Kumar, the accused, was a man in his mid-30s, working as a cab driver to make ends meet. He came from a humble background and had been in Bengaluru for several years, trying to build a stable life. At first glance, Kumar seemed like an ordinary man, just trying to get by like many others in the city. However, his relationship with Varalakshmi painted a much darker picture as events unfolded. They had been in a live-in relationship for a while, which was fairly common in urban areas like Bengaluru. But behind closed doors, things were far from perfect. The two had met through mutual connections and quickly became close. Their relationship started on a positive note, as most do, and it did not take long for them to decide to move in together, but living together slowly exposed the cracks in their bond. Kumar's behavior became more controlling and aggressive over time. They had frequent arguments, and it became clear that their relationship was far from healthy. It seemed like a regular relationship at first, which is why the ending is even more disturbing. It is hard to understand how someone who once claimed to care for another person could commit such a brutal act. It is a reminder of how complicated and dangerous some relationships can turn out to be when emotional or psychological issues go unchecked. The day of the crime, October 6th, 2023, started like any other day for Varalakshmi and Kumar, but by the end of it, their lives would take a horrific turn. That morning, Kumar went about his routine, but something was brewing beneath the surface. Tensions had been escalating between the two over the past few weeks, with frequent arguments that often turned heated. On this particular day, their disagreement reached a boiling point. As the evening drew closer, the couple's argument intensified. Neighbors reported hearing loud shouting coming from their apartment, something that was sadly not unusual. But this time, the fight took a violent turn. Kumar, already frustrated and angry, lost control. In the heat of the moment, he brutally attacked Varalakshmi. The details of this part are both disturbing and heartbreaking. According to the police reports, Kumar strangled her in a fit of rage, an act that ended her life within minutes. It is hard to think about the kind of emotional state someone must be in to go from being in a relationship to committing such an act of violence. But what makes this even more chilling is what happened after. Instead of turning himself in or even reacting in panic, Kumar made a decision that still shocks many of us. He took Varalakshmi's lifeless body and stuffed it into their refrigerator. Yes, their household fridge, a place where we store food, became a hiding spot for her remains. He covered the body in plastic, hoping that this would somehow conceal the crime for at least a few days. This part is almost unimaginable. The thought that someone could not only kill, but then try to hide the evidence in such a manner. It was not just an attempt to cover up the murder. It was an act that required cold, calculated thinking, something that suggests Kumar was more than aware of what he had done. It is not like a sudden burst of emotion where one immediately regrets the action. This was a deliberate choice to hide the body, an effort to escape the consequences. Even after committing this unspeakable act, Kumar continued with his day as if nothing had happened. He left the apartment, going about his regular activities while Varalakshmi's body remained hidden in the fridge. That sense of normalcy in the face of such horror is what makes this case stand out. It was not just a crime of passion. It showed a complete lack of remorse. Kumar's decision to leave the body in such a manner not only delayed the discovery of the crime, but also created a horrifying scene when the authorities finally arrived. It was a gruesome situation, one that left both the police and neighbors in shock. Many people, even seasoned investigators, expressed how deeply disturbed they were by the method Kumar chose to conceal his crime. These details are difficult to digest, but they are necessary to understand the full extent of what happened that night. This case is a chilling reminder of how quickly things can escalate and how, in some situations, people cross lines that we would never have thought possible. Discovery of the crime. Days after the murder, Varalakshmi's family started to grow increasingly concerned. Varalakshmi was close to her family and would usually be in regular contact with them. When she stopped answering calls and messages, they immediately sensed that something was wrong. Initially, they might have thought it was a temporary issue. Perhaps she was busy or her phone was not working. But as the hours turned into days, their worry deepened. Her sudden silence was completely out of character, and the family knew they had to take action. When their repeated attempts to reach her were unsuccessful, Varalakshmi's family decided to visit her apartment. They had no idea what awaited them, but they knew something was seriously wrong. After trying to reach her by phone for several days, they went to her home on October 13th, 2023. However, even after arriving, there was no sign of her. The door remained locked, and Kumar was nowhere to be found either. That is when the family decided it was time to involve the authorities. The police were alerted to her disappearance soon after, and they took the case seriously, especially since the family had already expressed concerns about her safety, due to recent tensions between Varalakshmi and Kumar. Officers arrived at the apartment, and after some time they were able to gain entry. What they found inside was beyond anything they could have anticipated. When the police opened the refrigerator, the truth was revealed in the most horrifying way. Varalakshmi's body, wrapped in plastic, had been stuffed inside. The shock that the officers and family members felt in that moment is hard to put into words. It was not just the fact that a body had been found, but the way it had been hidden in a place meant for everyday use, a refrigerator. The chilling contrast between such an ordinary object and the gruesome discovery is something that still haunts many who followed the case. This discovery must have been horrifying for everyone involved. I cannot even begin to imagine the shock and trauma felt by her family and the police officers who stumbled upon such a gruesome scene. Even as outsiders, just hearing about it is disturbing enough, but for those who were there, the emotional impact must have been overwhelming. The police immediately realized that Kumar, the man she had been living with, was their prime suspect, and a search for him began. The events following this shocking discovery would soon lead to Kumar's arrest, but the damage had already been done. The police investigation. When Varalakshmi's family reported her missing, the police did not waste any time. Given the details shared by her relatives about her strained relationship with Kumar, the police treated the case as urgent from the start. Initially, the family had hoped it would just be a case of miscommunication or a misunderstanding, but the situation quickly became far more serious after the horrifying discovery of her body in the refrigerator. This shocking find turned the case from a missing persons inquiry into a full-fledged murder investigation. Right from the beginning, Kumar became the main suspect. After the crime, he had attempted to go into hiding, doing whatever he could to evade detection. He had vanished from the apartment and cut off all communication with people who knew him, including his close circle of friends. It became clear that he was not just trying to distance himself from the scene, but was actively avoiding capture. It was reported that Kumar had even tried to create a fake alibi, telling some people he was out of town at the time of Varalakshmi's death. But the police knew better. They had too many reasons to suspect him. The investigation revealed several key pieces of evidence that would eventually lead to his capture. One of the most significant clues came from the CCTV footage near their apartment building. In these recordings, Kumar was seen entering and leaving the building at times that did not match his claims. The footage showed his movements during the days before and after the murder, and this completely dismantled his attempts at a false alibi. Kumar's phone records also provided crucial information. His call history and locations pointed directly to his involvement, showing that he was not far from the crime scene when Varalakshmi was killed. When investigators examined the crime scene, they were faced with more chilling details. The state of the apartment suggested that there had been a violent struggle. There were clear signs of a fight, with objects scattered around, giving the impression that things had escalated quickly between the couple. But perhaps the most unsettling part of the crime scene was, of course, the refrigerator. Kumar had tried to conceal the body in a desperate and bizarre attempt to cover up his crime. The refrigerator itself became a crucial piece of evidence, something no one could ever forget once it was found. The police worked methodically, following every lead they could. After gathering enough evidence and carefully analyzing Kumar's movements, they tracked him down. When they finally found him, there was no longer any way for him to escape the truth. The interrogation that followed was intense. At first, Kumar denied everything, continuing to act as though he had nothing to do with Varalakshmi's death. But the overwhelming evidence, combined with the pressure from the police, eventually broke him down. During questioning, Kumar eventually confessed to the crime. He admitted that things had spiraled out of control during their argument, leading him to commit the murder in a moment of rage. What is still deeply disturbing, though, is the way he tried to hide the body, as though that would somehow erase what he had done. His confession did not bring Varalakshmi back, but it did provide some answers to the police and her family, even though the sense of loss could never be undone. I have to say, the police worked quickly and effectively in this case. They gathered the right evidence, found the suspect, and secured his confession. But even with such efficient work, it is hard not to feel the weight of what was already lost. The tragedy had already unfolded before they could intervene. No matter how fast the investigation moved, it cannot change the fact that Varalakshmi's life was taken in such a cruel manner. Motive and psychology behind the crime. Understanding what could drive someone like Kumar to commit such a terrible act is difficult, but there are some clues that may shed light on his motive. It was clear from the beginning that the relationship between him and Varalakshmi had started to crumble in the months leading up to the murder. Financial problems were one of the major issues between the couple. Kumar had been struggling with money, and the pressure of these difficulties appeared to have had a significant impact on his mental state. Living together only seemed to increase the tension, as arguments about money became more frequent and intense. This financial strain was reportedly a huge source of frustration for Kumar. In addition to their financial troubles, it seemed that Kumar's possessiveness and control over Varalakshmi had also escalated over time. Friends and family mentioned that the relationship had become toxic, with Kumar becoming more volatile. While these kinds of power dynamics in relationships are sadly common, they are often a warning sign of emotional and psychological instability. When people feel like they are losing control over their life or their partner, it can sometimes lead to extreme and violent reactions. In Kumar's case, this may have been one of the factors that pushed him to commit the murder during their heated argument. Experts who have looked at similar cases suggest that a combination of emotional instability, anger, and desperation often leads to such tragedies. Psychologists might describe Kumar's behavior as stemming from deep-rooted frustrations that were building up over time. His inability to manage stress, particularly in the face of financial and relationship problems, likely created an explosive situation. When someone like Kumar feels cornered, whether by life circumstances or personal conflicts, they can become irrational, lashing out in ways that would normally be unimaginable. Some professionals in the field of forensic psychology argue that Kumar's actions suggest not only a loss of emotional control, but also a complete disregard for the consequences of his violence. In cases like these, the individual might enter a state of rage where they act without thinking, completely blinded by their emotions in the heat of the moment. After the murder, Kumar's bizarre decision to hide the body in a refrigerator speaks to a disturbed mind. The act of storing the body in such a cold, calculated way, almost as if it were an object to be hidden, adds another layer of horror to this case. It shows not just a desire to avoid responsibility, but also a chilling level of detachment. While it is tempting to try and understand why someone would commit such a heinous crime, it is still horrifying to think about what must have been going through his head during those moments. It is important to acknowledge that no matter what the pressures were, nothing can ever justify such violence. Kumar may have been overwhelmed by his circumstances, but that does not change the fact that he took a life in a brutal, unforgivable way. What makes it even harder to grasp is how he could go from arguing with Varalakshmi to killing her, and then coldly attempting to hide her body. Legal developments and current status. After the gruesome discovery of Varalakshmi's body in the refrigerator, the police wasted no time in arresting Kumar. He was taken into custody just days after the crime, charged with murder under Section 302 of the Indian Penal Code. Since the crime took place in early October 2023, the legal process has been steadily moving forward, but as is often the case in the Indian judicial system, there can be delays and challenges that slow down justice. Following Kumar's arrest, the police presented their findings, including the evidence they had gathered, CCTV footage, phone records, and his confession. As of now, the case is still in the pretrial phase, with preliminary court hearings already underway. The prosecution is working on building a strong case against him, while Kumar remains in judicial custody, awaiting the official start of his trial. His defense has not provided much information, but it is expected that they will likely focus on mental health or financial strain as part of their strategy. In terms of the potential punishment, if found guilty, Kumar could face life imprisonment or even the death penalty, depending on how the court views the nature of his crime. The cold and calculated manner in which he tried to hide the body might be considered an aggravating factor, which could lead to harsher sentencing. However, like with many high-profile cases, there could be delays due to legal complexities, appeals, or procedural roadblocks. At this stage, justice is still pending for Varalakshmi and her family. Personally, I hope the legal process moves swiftly and without unnecessary hurdles, so her loved ones can finally find some peace. The waiting period for justice can feel unbearable, especially after such a traumatic event. It is hard to even think about what her family must be going through right now. Public reactions and media coverage. The Mahalakshmi Fridge murder case quickly caught the attention of both the media and the public. From the first reports of Varalakshmi's shocking death, local and national news outlets covered the story extensively. Headlines were filled with horrifying details: how her body had been discovered in a fridge, Kumar's arrest, and his attempts to cover up the crime. Each new development brought more focus to the case, with reporters following every move of the police and the legal proceedings. It became the talk of the town, sparking conversations not just in Bengaluru, but across India. Public reactions to this case were intense and emotional. Online, people expressed their shock, grief, and anger. Social media platforms were flooded with posts condemning the brutality of the crime. Many questioned how something so horrific could happen within a household. In Mahalakshmi layout, the community where Varalakshmi lived, there was an overwhelming sense of disbelief. Neighbors who knew her and Kumar were stunned, unable to reconcile the friendly face they saw every day with the gruesome crime he committed behind closed doors. This case also reignited debates about safety and domestic violence in Bengaluru. Many wondered whether warning signs had been missed. Could this tragedy have been prevented if more attention was paid to domestic conflicts? Bengaluru has seen a rise in violent crime, and this incident added to the ongoing concern about the safety of women in the city. Organizations advocating for women's rights and domestic violence prevention voiced their outrage, calling for stronger measures to protect individuals in vulnerable situations. For me, seeing how the public reacted shows just how disturbing this case really is. People are not just asking who committed the crime, but why it was allowed to happen in the first place. Many are left wondering how someone could reach such a dark place, and it has left the community grappling with a deep sense of unease. This tragedy has left a mark on everyone following it, and it is clear that Varalakshmi's story will not be forgotten anytime soon. Broader implications and reflections. The Mahalakshmi Fridge case extends beyond the horror of a single crime. It highlights serious issues within society. Domestic violence is a significant problem, often hidden behind closed doors. Many people suffer in silence, fearing they will not be believed, or that seeking help will only make their situation worse. This case has drawn attention to the urgent need for awareness about domestic abuse. It shows that many individuals might feel trapped in dangerous situations, which can lead to devastating outcomes. In addition to awareness, there is a pressing need for support systems that can help victims of domestic violence. Safe shelters, counseling services, and hotlines can make a crucial difference. When individuals feel they have a safe space to turn to, they may find the courage to escape unhealthy relationships. Furthermore, legal protections for victims must be strengthened. Laws should not only punish perpetrators, but also protect those who are in harm's way. The issues surrounding this case also point to the importance of mental health in relationships. Sometimes, underlying psychological problems can escalate conflicts and lead to violence. Kumar's actions suggest that he may have struggled with significant mental health challenges. Society often overlooks mental health until it manifests in dangerous ways. Addressing mental health issues before they lead to violence is crucial. Encouraging open conversations about feelings and frustrations can help partners communicate better, potentially preventing tragic outcomes. It is essential to consider societal pressures that may contribute to these situations. Cultural expectations can place a heavy burden on individuals in relationships. There may be a stigma attached to seeking help, especially for men, who might feel that they must handle everything on their own. Recognizing these pressures can help society create more supportive environments for everyone, encouraging individuals to seek help when needed. Reflecting on this case, I cannot help but think about the warning signs we might overlook. This situation reminds us to pay closer attention to those around us. A sudden change in behavior, isolation from friends and family, or unexplained injuries can be red flags. Awareness can be a powerful tool in preventing tragedies like this one. Every time a case like this makes the news, it becomes an opportunity for society to learn and grow. We must ask ourselves what steps we can take to create a safer environment for everyone. Raising awareness, fostering open conversations, and providing better support systems can lead to positive changes. It is essential to work towards a future where no one feels trapped and where love and respect thrive in relationships. As the legal system slowly processes Kumar's case, the weight of this tragedy is still felt by Varalakshmi's loved ones and the entire Bengaluru community. What kind of justice do you think is appropriate in such a heartbreaking situation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If this case shocked you as much as it did me, please like, subscribe, and suggest any future cases you'd like me to cover.